Hey, welcome back, podcast friends. And this is another episode, and this one is going to be talking. It's a lot about your thoughts, and we've talked about this before. But just like this is, the name of this one is the emotional eating trap. And the reason it's called a trap is because there are times that you eat because you are truly hungry, but a lot of times when we eat, we're not hungry. We just have different feelings that we're trying to cover up. And what happens is if you try to cover up your feelings by eating, you tend to eat the wrong kinds of food. And so, again, it never fills you up. But what it does is it makes you either want more. So you keep eating that type of food. And then what happens is you end up feeling bad about yourself. Now, you know, you just ate a bunch of stuff you knew you shouldn't do. And now the cycle repeats. So now you feel bad about yourself. And now you go back and start eating. And so that's why it's called the emotional eating trap. And so we kind of want to talk about things that you can do, what causes this emotional eating, what you tend to eat, and how you can kind of change that. And a lot of it is just changing your thoughts and being aware that this is going to happen. And there's all kinds of emotions that can bring this on.
Right. So, just in case you don't know what some of the emotions are, so we got boredom and depression, loneliness, stress, anger, happiness. I mean, anything you can think of is a reason that people will overeat, and especially if it's become a habit. And, I think of like, I know Steve doesn't do, you don't do emotional eating. I don't think you ever have.
Huh.
But like I do, like definitely if I'm at the house and I'm bored or I'm procrastinating, it's like I know I should be doing something. And then I just immediately want to go to the refrigerator. The problem at our house is there's nothing to eat. So I mean, like I would have to scramble me some eggs or fix me a hamburger or, do something like that. And I will tell you this, if you are hungry enough to do those things, then you probably are hungry. Maybe you didn't eat enough at breakfast or lunch, So that's something to think about as well, is to be sure that you are eating enough when you do sit down to eat, that when something, boredom, procrastination, you're stressed out, when that happens, you can stop and think a minute before you eat.
Yeah, and the other thing that she said also what is key, and that's really what we want you to start doing, is don't have it in the house.
Mhm.
If there is food that you know you should not be eating, don't even put it in the house, because I guarantee when you go through one of these emotions, you'll find it. You may even remember, oh, I think I kept a box of that back way back here in the back, and you will get up and find it just to keep from doing whatever it is you're doing or whatever emotion you're trying to hide.
Right.
So keeping it out of the house, and we'll talk about that later, but that's going to be key.
Right.
And just like you said, these don't have to be bad emotions, even happy. What we tend to do is even when we're happy, we have all this energy, we don't know what to do with it, and so we eat. Or we think, I deserve this. I did a great thing. I deserve this. Or what's worse is when you tell your kids that. When you tell your kids, oh, you did a great thing, let's take you out and feed you some toxins, because that's really what you're doing. And so what happens in their minds is, oh, when I do good, I get a treat. And a treat is this wonderful ice cream, brownies, cookies, whatever it is that
Yeah.
you tend to do. And so as they get older, they think that every time that they do something good, they need to treat themselves with one of this types of foods. And when they get so old that now they're driving on their own, they're going out, they figure, oh, I can treat myself all the time. And so that's all they do is eat the same stuff that they used to be given as a reward, because now they can have it whenever they want to, because they're more adult like.
Yeah. So it's just like we were saying, food does not make emotions go away. It only covers them up. And so what you want to do is like just take a few minutes and be thinking about, why am I hungry? Why am I all of a sudden standing in front of the refrigerator? Because I know I've done that and I didn't even realize. Next thing you know, I'm in the front of the refrigerator, I'm in the cabinets. Even when I know there's nothing to eat, I am still standing there. And it's like, okay, what am I doing? What is wrong? Like, okay, I'm stressed. Maybe I need to really stop and think about this. And this is not an easy thing to do. This does take time, but if you stop to think about it, that's just the beginning.
Yep, that's true. And just like we just said, what also tends to happen is when you know you're not supposed to eat this kind of stuff, and you really are trying to get healthy, and you really do realize how toxic it truly is to the organs in your body, all this sugar and all this ultra processed food that we eat. And if you've listened to any of my past podcasts, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But what happens is, this isn't good stuff to have. Now, a lot of people say, well, I know it's bad for me, but I can't deprive my children of this. So I'm going to keep this in here for my kids. I'm sorry, but that makes zero sense to me. If you think it's toxic to you, why would you give it to your children? But that's another issue for later. But the main thing is, when you start eating the stuff that you know is bad for you, then you actually start feeling bad about yourself again. So whatever emotion you're hiding, now you added on, putting toxins in your body that you know you shouldn't have. So now you feel bad about yourself, and now the cycle just continues on, over and over again. So what we got to do is, you have to break that cycle.
Right.
And it's horrible, because people, when people first start changing the way they eat, and changing the way they look at the food they put in their mouth, and change the way they look at their health, and they realize now, especially if you've been listening to any of my podcasts, you know that a lot of these disease states that we've been told by the medical community, and I was in the medical community for my first 35 years of school. When you do this, what ends up happening is you start feeling bad, thinking, well, why can't I eat normally? Why can't I eat like all these other people? Why do I have to be the one that's
being deprived?
Yeah, being deprived of all these good, sweet, greasy, salty foods. You got to realize you don't want to eat normally. Look around and see the people who eat normally. And if you really want to see them in a concentrated area, go to the hospital, because that's where the people who eat normally end up. And so you do not want to eat. And remember, normal changed. Normal before the 1970s, normal eating, and normal eating after the 1970s, two totally different things. And we'll talk about that also. But for right now, just make sure you don't want to eat normal. You want to eat healthy.
Right. So that goes back to changing your thoughts about what you think is normal. Just having the attitude that I don't want to just be normal. I want to take care of myself. I want to eat things that are really good for my body, because we know normal right now is not right. And so if you can start teaching yourself that you want to eat better, then you will start thinking that normal is the way you do eat, or the way that you are wanting to eat. So it's just, it goes back to those darn thoughts.
and it is crazy, because when you eat, now what I'm hoping people who listen to our podcast, they realize, yes, our podcast is called Simple Healthy Choices for Weight Loss, but all our podcasts talk about healthy nutrition. And please do not get confused, because when you eat healthy, when you truly eat basically animal products with real meat, real fat, real fruit, real vegetables, you're getting all your vitamins and minerals. When you eat that way, your body will use your own fat for its energy source. So when you eat healthy, you will lose weight. So if you're gaining weight and you're eating horribly, with all these man-made toxic foods, it's not that far of a gap to say, oh, I eat this food and now I'm on these medications and I have these disease conditions. But before the 1970s, they ate normally and they didn't have all these conditions. We never had type 2 diabetes like we have now. I mean, not even close. Type 2 diabetes, obesity, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, autoimmune diseases, allergies, inflammation, all the stuff that we suffer through right now was very rare and almost non-existent back before the 1970s. So when you think, why can't I eat normal? I hope you add on that, why can't I eat normal like we did before the 70s, not like we eat normal now?
Right.
Because now it is just all processed foods.
It is. You look at the grocery stores. I mean, the middle of the grocery stores, that's where all of the processed food is, because it takes a long time to go bad, and it's got all the sugar and the corn syrup and all of the stuff that isn't good for you.
All the chemicals, all the artificial dyes, artificial flavors, artificial sweeteners, the maltodextrin, the vegetable and seed oils, all processed grains, sugar, high fructose corn syrup. I mean, every single thing I listed is what's in every single man-made product, and every single one of those I've done an individual podcast on each one of those, explain why each one of those is extremely toxic to our bodies. So again, normal eating, is unhealthy eating is
Right.
what it is now.
Right. So when you eat processed food, so, you know, one of the things that we always talk about with our clients is
Mhm.
is we want you to get to where you're not snacking anymore. So eat, you know, 3 meals a day. Hopefully you can get down to 2 meals a day, you know, kind of push that eating, you know, into 6 hours or
Yeah,
8.
6 to 8 hour
And
eating
but
window.
not to snack. And if you think about it, if you were going shopping and you were in those middle aisles, and I realize you can get like chicken helper, hamburger. I mean, there are things that are supposed to be for your dinner or whatever, but a lot of it is snacking food, chips, cookies, crackers, you know, that type of
Cookies.
thing. And
Yeah.
where our program, I mean, that's first thing we're going to have you to do is not snack. And so that is the emotional eating you're going to be struggling with, because you're going to be, if you're really hungry, then you'll fix you some eggs. You know, if
Right.
you're really hungry, you will do these things. But if you're not, if you're like, oh, I don't know, because I've done this, it's like, oh, eggs don't sound good.
Yeah.
Hamburger doesn't even sound good.
Yeah, meat doesn't sound good. I just want something,
Crunchy.
sugary, salty, greasy, crunchy.
Right.
That's the one you want. And trust me, the reason you think that, because we didn't used to think this before the 70s, the reason you think that is because you have been brainwashed into thinking this. And I've talked
Well,
about this so many times.
we're addicted.
Oh, they're all
Mhm.
the chemicals that are in this are so addictive. The food companies know what they're doing. Never did they ever say that they were here for our health. Never do they say that. They may advertise it on the outside of the product, acting like they're healthy, but they're not. They are here for their shareholders. They're here for money. It's a business. The way the shareholders make more money is they keep giving you the type of food that does not satisfy your hunger at all. And what it does, it makes you more hungry. So that's why nowadays everybody thinks that I need about every 2 to 3 hours, my stomach's a little growly. I think I need to eat me something.
Mhm.
And that is brainwashing. That is what these chemical companies, which is what they are. That's what these food companies have done to us is they've made us think that we have to eat every 2 to 3 hours. And the reason why is because when we eat these snacky foods, they give us zero nutrients, no nutrients whatsoever. That's what our body really wants when it's hungry. So a lot of times you may think you're hungry and you are not hungry at all.
Right.
But
So, you know,
I'm
and
jumping ahead.
that's why we're saying to go ahead and eat, you know, if you're going to have your lunch or your dinner, whichever meal, make sure you're eating plenty. You know, make sure you're filling up on the meat and fat. And before you go into like eating your vegetables, or if maybe you are wanting a sweet potato, save that for the end so that you're really full with those other things. And then you don't need to eat that much. But these are more nourishing foods than if you were to have, you know, some chips, you know, with your dinner, you know, something like that. And, you
Or
know,
anything, or fries or anything.
right.
And like she said, the other thing, when you eat carbohydrates, which means when you eat plant-based foods, and remember, all carbohydrates, all plant-based foods have the basic building block of glucose, but they get broken down very quickly in your stomach and also in your intestines. So when you eat these kinds of food, it only stays in your stomach by 30 to 60 minutes, only stays in your intestine for 1 or 2 hours. And then all of a sudden now you have all this big glucose load in your blood. So you stimulate insulin to get rid of that glucose, it drops it down, and now you're hungry again. That's why if you eat meat and fat, because meat and fat will stay in your stomach for several hours. It's more like 2 to 4 hours, and then it can actually stay in your intestines for 24 to 48 hours. So when you eat the good, healthy, nutritious food, not only does it stay in your stomach and intestine longer, but if you want to eat some, a vegetable or fruit and ever, do that afterwards. And now it's going to get mixed up with all the good, healthy protein, all the good, healthy fat. And it makes it so it doesn't break down as quickly and doesn't get into your bloodstream as quickly. So it doesn't raise your glucose as quickly and doesn't raise your insulin as quickly. And that's really what you want to do. So eat the good, nutritious fat and meat first, and then you can have your real fruit and real vegetables. And we're saying, just stay away from all the snacks, all the chemical laden
Well,
sugar
if it has
stuff as much as you can.
if it has a label on it,
Yeah.
saying all the ingredients, just try to stay away. And so Steve talks about this in detail in his podcast number 20, What Makes You Hungry and Not Hungry. So if you want more information on that, you could definitely go check that out.
Yeah. And remember the whole thing we're doing, and this is what's hard. So we've already talked about what you tend to do, the emotions that tend to bring on that type of eating, what types of food you tend to navigate for, what that does to your psyche. So now you feel bad because you ate this horrible food, and now you feel bad about yourself, and now that can bring on more, just a vicious cycle. So the whole thing that we've been talking about is your thoughts. What are your thoughts as far as food? Now, let's see, we haven't talked about anything yet as far as the first thing really, and I don't remember if we're going to talk about it or not, is don't have the food in your house. Just don't. Just don't have it in your house. When you go through and you clean out your car, your cabinets, and you clean out your refrigerators, like we've talked about in the past podcast, when you do that and you get rid of all this food, when you start eating healthy, what you find out is really most of your foods are coming out of the refrigerator. Almost everything be out of the refrigerator because that's living things. That's real fruit, real vegetables, real meat. These are things that will rot. They will go bad because bacteria and viruses like them. You eat some of this stuff, crackers and cookies and chips and all this kind of stuff, fries from McDonald's, funguses and bacteria don't even grow on that stuff. You can find a French fry that's been underneath your car seat for the last 5 years and it looks exactly the same. And if you care to taste it, I bet it tastes the same also, because there's no growth. There's no bacterial growth, no viral, no fungal growth. Nothing grows on this. So why do you think of bacteria and funguses won't even eat it? Why should we? But anyway, so the whole thing is you've got to change your thoughts if you're going to do this at all.
And, I do talk about this a lot. It's CTFAR. And what that stands for is the C is for your circumstance. And so whatever is happening outside of you, externally, what's going on. So you're going to have your circumstance and it's going to bring on your thoughts. So that's the T. So that thought is going to bring on a feeling. And all of our feelings come from our thoughts. That's the only way we can get a feeling is from our thoughts.
And this could be feelings of boredom, depression, loneliness, stress, everything we just said as far as emotional eating.
And so your feelings are going to make you do something. It doesn't matter. Either make you do something or make you not do something. Maybe you, make you go to the refrigerator or the cabinet and go ahead and have those cookies. Your feeling is going to, did I say that? Your feeling is going to make you do an action. So it's going to make you do something. Or maybe, it'll make you go for a walk so that would be a good action. But a lot of the time our action is kind of bad because we are not in control of our thoughts, because we do not realize we are in control of our thoughts.
Right.
And then you get your result. And so your result is going to be, if you've been trying to lose weight, have you been doing the actions that it takes to lose weight, or have you not? And you can tell because you've either lost weight or you haven't. And this goes with anything. It doesn't only have to do with weight.
Right.
So that's what we teach. And just to say it, it's like, oh, well, that's so simple.
And what's crazy is these actions, like we said, your thoughts change your feelings, those control your actions, and those control your results. So if you have these emotions and your first thing is, oh my gosh, my feeling, I'm depressed. You may not even think you're depressed. You just know you just don't feel right. And so your feelings is, I think I need to eat me something. So you get up and you have this action of eating something. Well, now you eat this horrible toxic thing that you've already learned, you already know is not good for you. So now the result is you feel bad about yourself. You feel bad about what you've done, and now you feel bad. And so now that goes all the way back. You circle back around.
Your thought is going to be a bad thought. You're going to think, I don't know what I was thinking. I can't do this. And a bad thought is not going to help you do what you want to do with your life. And so something you said.
The real thing you want to do is change your thoughts.
Right.
That you before you do anything, if you're going to change a feeling, an action, or result, the very first thing you have to do is you have to change your thoughts. Create a new version of yourself. Be the person that you want to be, and think about it. The way you're going to do this is when you practice it all the time. Every time something comes up, think of a better thing that you want to do. Change your thoughts. Say, yes, this is the old me, but this is the new me. Now, when I get hungry, and that's what we'll talk about. We'll talk about some other things that you can do in place of that.
Right.
But yeah.
Did you want to talk? So he skipped over. So episode 27 is how to begin your healthy lifestyle change. If you want to go back, and I'm sure we are talking about thoughts in that one.
Right.
It's just such an important thing. It's like when I very first heard it, I didn't really think about what I thought about. That's it. That is the whole thing, is that you realize that you can think about what you think about. Or think about what you think about. So you want to change your story about yourself. And that's, you have control over that. A lot of people do not think they have control over what's going on in their life, and you have
or what's going on in their heads. People
right.
don't realize that most of the thoughts you think are wrong. Most of the thoughts you think are not correct. You're just so used to thinking them that you think they're real. So you got to change the story that you tell yourself. If you tell yourself, I'm bored, I'm mad, I want to feel good, and what gets me feeling good really easily is putting sugar in my mouth, because it does automatically make you think that way when you've been used to thinking this way all the time. When you switch your thoughts, like what I've done now, if I put something salt or sugar in my mouth, I know immediately this is bad. This is something that I do not want in my mouth. I definitely don't want to eat a lot of it. So once you change your story, and then you say, oh, this isn't what I want to do. What I really should be going is going and doing a walk or reading a book or whatever things you want to do. Then if that's the result of your thoughts, now that means that your thoughts are going to get stronger and stronger, because now you have good thoughts that lead to good feelings. Because now you're like, instead of being upset about yourself for eating the stuff you shouldn't have done, now you feel proud of yourself. Look what I did. I got hungry. I realized that it wasn't even hunger after all. I was feeling sorry for myself. And instead of eating the stuff that's going to make me feel bad, I actually went out and I went for a walk, and I actually feel a lot better after this. When you start doing that over and over and over again, it's going to be easier. So now when that circumstance comes up again, your thoughts going to be different. And that's the whole thing you want to do, is change your thoughts, change your story that you tell yourself. And the way you do that is know what your ultimate goal is. If your ultimate goal is to go in the hospital and be on medications the rest of your life, keep doing what you're doing. But if your ultimate goal is to have a high quality life, stay out of the medical system, get off medications, stay off medications, and live a nice, vibrant life, then you're going to need to change your thoughts. And it seriously is the little bitty things every single day. These thoughts, the more you think them, the stronger your thoughts are going to get, the stronger your mind's going to get, and the stronger you're going to become.
Yeah. And just like an example of, so if you're going to have a bad thought about yourself, it's like a bad thought could be, I don't know why I even try. I cannot stick to a diet at all. I just can't. That thought is going to lead to a feeling of frustration, disappointment, and your action is probably going to be, you're going to go to the cabinet and eat something. You could start changing your thoughts, and you really, if you can, you want to start them with I am. And you don't want to lie to yourself, because you'll know you're lying to yourself. But like this very first example here could be, I am a person who takes care of myself. And you just, or I am a person who is starting to take care of myself. It's whatever you're like, okay, I am a person, I go for walks. I am a person that walks every day. I am a person that only eats 3 times a day. I mean, there are so many things, but if you can start it with I am, even if it's starting, or I am recognizing that I want to change. I mean, there are so many things that you can say. Those are just a few examples, but that's just some ways to get started.
Right. And there's, where there are immediate solutions to your old bad habits, those are the ones that you need to try to break. So if your immediate solution is get up and look in the refrigerator, get up and look in the cabinets, don't have the stuff in there. Like we said, if you're at work and it's just immediate, you're bored or whatever, and you get up and you walk into the break room, or you go to the vending machine or whatever, where there's normally the food there, until you get strong at this, you'll cave. You will go by. And we've talked about this before. If you go into break room or something and there's all this food in there, which where I work, there was always food in there. When you do this, if you've noticed that you walk past the table and you start going, oh my gosh, oh, that looks horrible. That looks wonderful. Somebody made that. I bet that tastes so good. Nope. I can't have it. I can't have it. Nope. I'm not going to do it. But it smells good. That's that smell like. Once you start playing those games with yourself, you've lost. You've lost. Once you start playing that game, your brainwashing has just taken over. Think of it like a light switch. When you walk through, just say, no, I'm not looking at it. I'm not thinking about it. I'm just smelling it. Just go through the break room, go whatever you need to do and get out of there. Because you will lose. It's a losing thing. And why? Why would you want to set yourself up to lose? If you truly have the goal of being healthy and truly have the goal of stopping putting all this chemical toxic laden stuff in your mouth, if that truly is a goal, which goes back to knowing your why do you want to do this? But if that's truly a goal, then just do yourself a favor and think of all these things as a light switch. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to look in the refrigerator. I'm not going to look in the cabinet. I'm not going to go smelling all the food that's in the break room. I'm not going to do it, and you will feel so much stronger about yourself. You'll actually start feeling good about yourself.
Yeah. And one of the things you can do is plan a project or do something. So maybe let's say it's a weekend and like, why don't you plan to clean out your closets, clean your kids' rooms, like take an afternoon and take a few hours to do those things. And really, once you're busy, you really forget about food. It's when you're not busy that your brain is like, oh, maybe we should eat something. But plan project. I mean, there's so many things you can plan just to distract yourself. You could also make some coffee or decaf coffee. Get you some tea. If you're just wanting something, sometimes it's just something to hold in your hands. Just get something to drink.
And just real quick, back on the project, and this is any stressor that you have. This is a time, what I do if I have a stressor, I literally physically sit down in front of the computer and just type out, what is my stressor? What are some solutions to this? And what can I do? Because a lot of people also, like she was talking about, plan a project or anything like that, like can you clean out a room? A lot of people will say, well, I could clean the room, but that sure does seem daunting. I'll start it. Maybe I'll sit here and eat something while I think about it. So don't do that. Chunk things down. You don't have to clean the whole room. Clean a corner, clean a desk, clean something. Just because as you clean, you're keeping yourself busy. Most of the times you're not truly hungry. It's just an emotion that you're trying to prove. So once you sidetrack yourself, but the other thing you find out is if there is something like a room in your house or something that is all messy and it's always bugging you, that one thing could be making you get stressed out and doing your eating. But if you chunk it out and say, I'm just going to clean this one area today, and you see how good it was, and it usually never takes anywhere near as much time as you think, then maybe you say, man, next time I think I'll clean this part of the room and then this part of the room. And pretty soon you're going to find out the room's all clean and you might want to go into another room. We're just saying that as an example, because it is good to clean up your environment. As you clean up your environment, it's easier to clean up your head also, because you don't have all these things that are distracting you and making you think that, hey, maybe I should not do that and eat instead.
Yeah. You could also set a time. It's like, I'm only going to do it for 15 or 20 minutes. And at the end of that, if I still don't want to do this, then quit. Usually, I know this for myself. It's like once I get started, then it's super easy to keep going. So, I mean, I just think cleaning up a room is.
Yeah, clean it, but you don't have to clean. Right. Whatever. Read a book. Go for a walk. Go on a day trip somewhere. It doesn't really matter. Just something, but you'd like to do something that's going to make you feel good about yourself. Whether you're walking, whether you're taking care of a stressor, whatever. But whatever you do, make it where it's something you truly enjoy, but it wasn't something that you were putting in your mouth.
Right.
Because really, like we said, most times when you think you're hungry, you're really not. And so like Theresa said, 20 minutes, if you could be thinking you're hungry and then just find something to distract you just for a little bit of time, right, like we just talked about, you're going to find out, because we did this. We were of the mindset that we had to eat every 3 to 4 hours. I mean, we did this for
2 to 3.
Yeah, 2 to 3 hours.
2 to 3, yeah.
We were doing that. And then once we realized that most of the times that we think we're hungry, we're not, it made us, when we got hungry, it's like, okay, wait a minute. Maybe I'm not hungry. And like Theresa said, that's when we drank some decaf coffee or some coffee, unsweet coffee, unsweet tea, water. Water is so important.
Yeah, just like pour a glass of water and just drink it. Don't just sip on it, but really drink it, because then that'll fill up your belly for at least a few minutes. Get you past that hunger. It'll get you past the part where you think you're hungry.
Right. And then learn from it. If you think you're hungry and you distract yourself and then you find out you are not hungry anymore and you still go another couple hours without eating anything, you just learn from this. Oh, well, I did it this time, I can do it again. And then next time it comes along, you can say that, hey, I did it last time. Let me do this again. Drink your water, do something. Mm-hmm. And we did a whole podcast on this. Episode number 41 was suggestions for what to eat on a low carb diet. And there's a lot of stuff you can do. But like Theresa said earlier, fix yourself some scrambled eggs. If you really are hungry, fix yourself scrambled eggs or hamburgers, or have hamburgers in the refrigerator already. All you have to do is warm them up, or grilled chicken or whatever.
Hard-boiled eggs.
Yeah, hard-boiled eggs.
We keep beef jerky. Just keep an eye on the ingredients with the beef jerkies. But you can have that. You could have cheese, which you might want to watch out a little bit if you're trying to lose weight, because that's very addictive.
Yeah, and some people they do tend to react a little bit different with dairy, especially if their GI tract, their intestines, their gut, and everything is all messed up by all these toxins and chemicals that's in man-made food, because most people's intestines are messed up. So you'll find that when you start eating clean, you quit eating man-made stuff, you stick to the God-made stuff, real meat, real fruit, real vegetables. When you do that, you actually start healing your gut. So a lot of things that you used to not be able to eat, like hard-boiled eggs or scrambled eggs or something like that, or milk, things that you used to not be able to eat, once you heal your GI tract, now all of a sudden you can eat these things again. And that really makes a huge difference when you're trying to start eating healthy.
Right.
And again, we talked about that on episode number 40, because this is another thing. Because people say, yeah, but I drive all the time. I'm always, I'm going from one place to the other. All I have options for are fast food restaurants. One, even if you eat a fast food restaurant, you could still find healthy things at that. Even if it's a burger joint and you say, I don't want anything but the patties, you can do that. And a lot of people do that. Mm-hmm. But I mean, there's a lot of things. So we actually did a podcast, episode number 40, called How Can I Eat Keto or Low Carb While on the Road? So if you are someone who's in the car all the time, go listen to episode number 40, and we give several suggestions on things that we actually know, because our nephew, Jamie, and his wife, Jana Lee, he's a truck driver and they're on the road all the time. And he has a lot of things that he does, and they eat healthy. They understand how to eat CTFAR, low carb. And so he has all kinds of really neat suggestions on what you can do when you're on the road. Right. So
you have to pack your food. Yeah. That's what he does. He packs all his meals.
Right.
Everything. So he doesn't eat on the road.
But if you do need something, I mean, like I said, there's pork rinds, beef sticks, beef jerky, coconut flakes. I eat Greek yogurt. I love Greek yogurt, and I get the highest percent fat, usually about 5% fat is what I can find. And then I'll put a scoop of protein powder in. So I may have chocolate Greek yogurt, strawberry Greek yogurt, peanut butter Greek yogurt, whatever. But it's a healthy protein powder, healthy Greek yogurt, mix it all up, and I'll throw some large flake cottage or large flake coconut flakes in there. It is a wonderful, healthy meal. Again, we're trying to get you do not be snacking all the time. But if you just really find you're hungry, but you want something to carry over, try things like that.
There are definitely other options. We just are so used to the chips and crackers. They're just so easy. So you just have to plan ahead, have these things on hand, and then you can, if you slip, it's perfectly fine. Don't beat yourself up. Have one of these better options, and then, move on to the next meal from there.
That's right. So I know we've gone on. Do you have anything else you want to say, sweetheart? And so we thought we would just end this with a quote that I found that I really, really liked. And this is by a lady by the name of Jan Chosen Bays. But this quote says, mindful eating replaces self-criticism with self-nurturing. It replaces shame with respect for your own inner wisdom. And that's exactly what we've been saying. When you change your thoughts to where your actions and your results are something that you want and not something that you don't want, that's when you're thinking the right way. And keep thinking those thoughts, and you will be amazed at how much that one little thing of changing your thoughts, how that can totally change your life. So once again, thank you so much for listening to us. And as always, have a wonderful week and make simple, healthy choices to live a quality life.